Yay, Thursday afternoon. Woo! I have a different category for my stream today. Usually Thursday afternoons are makers and crafting, because it's, my fun art projects and building stuff and whatever. But today we get to do science and tech. Oh, I forgot to turn my lights on. Hold on. Let's get a little illumination. And now I hear Phantom of the Opera music in my head. Anyway. But I have two different fossils that have come to me. Well, I guess technically three, since there's two of these guys. But it's all about fossils today. Nerding about fossils, being happy that fossils exist. Yes to science. Thank you, Shard and Mom. Very exciting stuff. So, yeah, no, and both of these projects needs to be prepped. This one I don't have the materials for today, but I want to show it off because I'm very excited. And this one I do, so we'll be working on these guys today. First of all, I gotta show you what's in the adorable little box. This is a gift I actually got a couple years ago. 2 years ago? A year ago? Time is foggy. From my in-laws. Because they found this at a gem show. A gem and rock show. And so, this guy is an ammonite. And ammonites are an extinct shellfish. So this is not just your average, sea squirt type of thing. This is a extinct species. And these are available for purchase all over the place. They're really common because they existed for billions of years, and then one of the big extinctions got them. Which, actually, let's look that up. I forget which extinction knocked these guys out. Did I set up a browser? Let's get a new window here. Doop doop boop boop. Incognito window. And let's go look up ammonite. And blah. I have to tie the browser to the correct screen. One moment, sorry. Sometimes I can just click on the view, and then other times I actually have to go to, the menu properties, but that's okay. Ammonite. Okay. By the way, there's a movie out called Ammonite about Mary Ailing, which sounds pretty good, but we can talk about that in a minute. Ammonite. Ammonodiae. Ooh. Go right for the science. So they're part of cephalopodia. Here's a great artist construction. There we go. That's our little buddy. So again, ammonite. You can totally see the resemblance. Pretty freaking cool. Pretty darn common as fossils go. Does it say how long they existed for? They're closely related to living coleoids, such as octopus, squid, and cuttlefish. They're more closely related to those than nautiluses, which is pretty cool. The earliest ammonites to appear in the Devonian, and the last species vanished in the Cretaceous Paleogen extinction event. Okay, so these guys went out with the dinosaurs. But they had a good run. That's a real long amount of time. So, good job, everybody. Yeah, they've been described by Pliny the Elder because their fossils are found all over the place. They kind of look like ram's horns. So that's where ammonite is derived from, ammon. So, alright. But yeah, so they're very rad, very cool cephalopod types. And there's just a lot of them. And now I have this one. And the delightful thing about this particular fossil is, let me change view back to me. Doo, doo, doo. Boop, boop. Oops, wrong one. The cool thing about this one, it's a nice size. That's just a really satisfying size for one of these. They can get real, real big, and they can be real, real small. So, you have millions of years of evolution. You can have a lot of that. This one needs a little bit more prep, so it's already beautiful. Like, you could just stop right here and be happy. But you can see this little area here. That's where I went through with a tool called a pin vise and actually knocked off this outer layer. So this yellow stuff is not fossil. It's just an outer layer of a different material that mimics the shape. Whereas this slightly shinier, darker material underneath is the actual fossilized critter. And apparently this is from Madagascar, as per the sticker that came with it from the rock shop. So yeah, I've always wanted to go back with this guy and try to clean off those other layers and get like a nice shiny finished, and I just haven't had a chance yet. And I had taken this with me once to the Field Museum to show my friends in the lab, put it in my drawer for safekeeping, and then promptly forgot about it. And every time I would think of it as when I would not be at the field, and or I'd be at the field and I'd be getting my stuff out of my drawer and I'd be like, oh, I should get that. And then I would forget by the end of the day. And so my lab manager was kind enough to mail this to me. And so I've got it back. I'm really glad to have this. So thank you, Akiko. You're just a phenomenal human being. And I'm glad to have it back. So I'm not going to be working on this guy today because, again, I don't own the materials. That's one of the reasons I took it to the field was to talk to my lab friends about, like, what should I use to prep it. And so I have to acquire a pin vise, which are pretty easy. It's literally just like a handle with a screw on it that can hold an object. People use them for all sorts of fancy tools. And then the pin itself is usually a little carbide steel rod that you just hand sharpen into a shape or style that you want. Funny thing that I've heard over the years, a lot of people think that you work on fossils with dental tools. Not really, no. Dental tools are too soft. Very purposely. Hey, library rat. The steel that the dental tools are made out of is not the hardest, flintiest possible steel because you don't want to really ruin people's teeth, so you wouldn't want the hardest steel. And so the stuff that you use to work with rocks is a specifically hardened carbide that is just going to be tougher because you're going at rocks, not teeth. So we would get donations of dental tools to the fossil lab all the time, like really, really nice ones. And they got used usually to pick glue off of things. I basically always glue. That's the only thing I can remember ever using the dental tools for, and they were great for that. But yeah, there's just this idea that you use dental tools, and like, no, man, you don't. The dental tools are soft. Dental tools are phenomenal for fresh dead stuff. You can do a lot with cleaning bones and stuff with dental tools, but not fossils. So yeah, so that's my little ammonite. So I just wanted to show it off because I love it, and I will be working on this once I acquire the tools, and I'm glad to have it. But that would not be the thing I'm working on right now. So yeah, so that's cool. I'll put that guy aside. So the fossil that I am working on today are Petoskey stones. And I got this kit from Library Rat. Haha, your timing is good. Thank you for the kit. And this is cute because it's like a... If I recall correctly, this is just like a tourist thing that someone got. So those are the Petoskey stones themselves. And it's this cute little kit with a bunch of materials in it. And, like, how adorable is this? Petoskey stones, more than meets the eye. Look, it's Michigan. Like, aw. So, I gotta run you guys through this little form because it's the cutest thing. Like, reading this was a joy. So, if I may. I'm reading the front page here. What is a Petoskey stone? The Petoskey stone, which became the official state stone of Michigan in 1965, is actually petrified fossil coral of the genus Hexagonaria. Hexagonaria. The reason, of course, is it makes sort of little hexagons. So, okay, Hexagonaria. Cool. Approximately 350 million years ago, a warm saltwater sea covered Michigan. I've talked about that before. So the center of the United States was an ocean. In the depths of this sea, the members of the coral colony lived. It is a compound coral in which many animals live together in a colony. In each hexagonal In each hexagonal chamber of the coral lived a small saltwater marine life organism. This is so cute. Petoskey stones are pieces of this coral. These pieces can be as small as a marble or as large as a boulder. Petoskey stone, boulders are cool. I have seen a few of those. When talking about the Petoskey stone, the hexagonal chambers are sometimes referred to as the eyes. These eyes are actually the coral's mouth. When the coral was living, tentacles radiated from its mouth and brought it food. So again, looking at the patterning on here, you can see the centers of these. So imagine that as like an opening and, fleshy bits coming out, which is both nightmarish but also pretty because it's coral. These tentacles are the lines coming out of the edges of the eyes of the stone. Again, you can kind of see some of that detail. The small flecks seen in the eye of the stone are the coral's food, which became petrified along with the coral. Rock and roll, makes sense. When the sea retreated, the coral was covered with silt and mud. This silt is seen as the dark streaks on the Petoskey stones. So, okay, fine. And so they have a very wonderful diagram. So the mouth is the big dark parts. Mud is like this amorphous middle thingy, and tentacles are the little lines. This is the best guide. I love whoever made this. So hexagonaria. I love that. Oh, and then they go into the Devonian Sea. I'm going to keep reading. I think this stuff is fun. Okay, it has a kind of a silly introduction, but I'm going to roll with it because I'm trying to be true to my source material here. In a time before Native American Indians moved their teepees across the hills and dunes of northern Michigan, before even the dinosaurs roamed the earth, a warm, salt sea covered what is now Lake Michigan. The fish that swam in the sea more closely resembled sharks than they did the salmon and lake trout swimming in our waters today. This is a tourist guide. It's adorable. The time was 395 million years ago. I'll take a stop right there. So that's the Devonian. 395 million years ago. Sue T-Rex is from 67 million years ago. So 395 versus 67. So Sue T-Rex is much more contemporary to us. Tyrannosaurus Rex is a much more contemporary critter to us than these things were to Sue T-Rex. Or, any other dinosaur. So the Devonian was a long time ago. The Devonian lasted for about 5 million years and is called the Age of Fishes because of the prolific increase in numbers and types of fish that occurred at this time. There are several types of jawless fish and plate-skinned fishes. Many of the fish of the Devonian had box-shaped bodies covered in scales as impenetrable as armor. I mean, yeah. Bony fishes, or... I've done this one. Osteichthyes. No, Osteichthyes, I think, appeared in the Middle Devonian. These fish had bony skeletons covered in slimy scales. So the difference is, oh, you're welcome. Yeah, no, the perspective of things like the Devonian is rad. Time is big. There's a lot of non-bony fish, so obviously if you eat fish and you've had to pick bones out of your teeth, bony fish, done. But like sharks are not bony fishes. They're made entirely of cartilage, which is the same stuff that's in your nose or in your ears. So Devonian is when bony fishes popped up. These fish had bony skeletons covered in slimy scales. Slimy scales. Sure, okay. Most of the fish in the Age of Fishes were well under a foot long. They didn't need to be big to be cool. The first sharks also appeared in the Devonian. They were not as large. They were not the large and long sharks we have today. Their maximum length was only 4 feet. One type, Climatius, was only 3 inches long. In addition to the fish, spiders, millipedes, and in addition to fish, okay, the punctuation here is weird. In addition to the fish, spiders, millipedes, and insects were abundant. The first fossils of insects were found in Devonian rock. Many of these insects were wingless. At the time, vascular plants became more widespread and numbers jumped. Vascular plants use special conducting tissue to gain nutrients and water. So basically, they have to have like tubes through them so that stuff actually moves through them, as opposed to like algae, which can just be a bunch of cells. That's a very reductionist way to explain that, but there's that. The leaves were not what we see today. Instead, there were several small needle-like leaves branching off the plant's stalks. There were no roots. The first The first tree forests appeared in the Middle Devonian. Most of the trees were seed ferns, which developed from seeds, not in cones. Developed their seeds not in cones, but on their leaves. These are now extinct. Okay. I'm gonna nitpick how about they're explaining that. Trees that we see today, oak trees, palm trees, whatever, trees that you really expect, those didn't appear until the middle of the Cretaceous when dinosaurs were kind of, in their third era. So yeah, there were forests of plants, but I wouldn't call them trees. Tree ferns are a completely different thing. Most of the trees that we see today actually are flowering plants. So they're just real huge flowers. Flowers didn't appear until the middle of the Cretaceous. So, that's not what they're focusing on here, but I would have explained that differently. Anyway, while all of these creatures are growing and evolving, in a little bay that will someday be named Little Traverse Bay, a colony of corals was rapidly growing. That's adorable. The animals in this colony extract needed minerals from the salt water and then secrete limestone that surrounds and protects them from the ravages of the predators of the sea. The formal name for Petoskey stones is hexagonaria, because of the six-sided shape that the limestone cups took on. Silt and mud settled to the bottom of the sea and covered the coral. Eventually the coral petrified, with this silt and mud filling in its holes, and lay untouched in the bottom of the sea for millions of years. That's just a great way to describe fossilization. If you're lucky enough to become a fossil, you basically, one of the best ways to become a fossil is to die in water or in a wet area and have the mud and silt and things really pack around you and then not blow off, and then they eventually will form you into a fossil. So if you want to become a fossil, it's a great way to do it. The retreat of several ice ages have carved and shaped the land masses of North America, including Michigan and the Great Lakes. Wow, that jumped through a lot of millions of years. Okay, the ice ages are way after the era of dinosaurs, so we just jumped forward effectively 300 million years between those two paragraphs. Anyway, moving on. The number of glaciers that came and went over the millions of years after Hexagonaria fossilized pushed the corals into many different areas of Emmett, Charlevoix, Sheboygan, Petoskey Isle, and Apenia counties. It is not uncommon to find Petoskey stones many miles inland from where Lake Michigan now lies. Because most of the stones were found around Petoskey, the stone was named Petoskey stones. So, good on you, locality known as Petoskey. Want to find your own stones? Take a walk on the miles of beach. This is, again, tourist stuff. Take a walk on the miles of beach of Little or Grand Traverse Bays of Lake Michigan. When dry, a Petoskey stone is whitish-gray and is powdery to the touch. Thus, it is almost impossible to distinguish a Petoskey stone from an ordinary rock. Get out into the water, and the eyes of the Petoskey stones will jump out at you. That is a funny sentence because it sounds scary. But no, a lot of fossils are more visible in the water. You guys have done this. If you're at a beach and when the beach stones are wet, they're prettier. That's a lot of stones. Stores price polished Petoskey stones based on the clarity of the coral in the stone and the color of the stone. Stones found in Little Traverse Bay have a rich caramel color to them. If you go away from the bay, the stones become lighter in color. In 1965, after the urging of Eugene Cater, a Michigan representative, the Petoskey stone was named Michigan State Stone. Oh wow, they have a whole geologic timescale thing here. Wow. So, here's us. There's humanity. Up here in the Cenozoic. Yeah. And there's the Devonian, and yeah, so this is cute, but yeah, so I'm not going to go through that, but it's adorable. Earrings and rings. All across Michigan, dozens of stores sell finished Petoskey stones, and there are pen holders, belt buckles, pendants, earrings, rings, bracelets, and even card figurines of the animals that live in northern Michigan. The artisans who create these works of art use saws, tumblers, and finished jewelry mounts. Good job, Michigan artists. This is cute. I forgot about this. Michigan's other symbols. The state flower is the apple blossom. The state bird is the robin. The state tree is the white pine. The state fish is the trout. The state gem is chlorasterite. Don't know that one. I might have to look that up. All right, and then here we are, the final 2 pages of the book. And it tells you what you actually need to polish your stones. I'll get to that in a minute. The final thing I want to read out to everybody, because again, this little guide is just the most adorable thing, is there's a poem on the back. So I'm going to read the poem. I hope everybody is ready. This is so absolutely endearing. All right. Petoskey is the name of the poem. In that state shaped like a mitten, on the little finger side, nestled in a peaceful valley, facing on the bay so wide, is a shining little city, place of beauty, health, and fame. Ah, I see you're getting curious. Would you like to know its name? Land of $1,000,000 sunsets, sportsman's paradise and more, the hay fever patient's haven, place the weary are looking for, where the water's pure and sparkling, the air is fresh, clear as a bell, hillsides are thickly wooded, casting shade in nook and dell. You may look wide the world over, not another like this city, it's a gem that can't be mined. In that state shaped like a mitten, on the little finger side, nestled in a peaceful valley, facing on a bay so wide, is a shining little city that is known from coast to coast. Our very own Petoskey is the place of which I boast. By Ithel Ayers, the Petoskey Evening News, 1921. So there's your bit of absolutely wonderful culture. Will I memorize the poem so you can use channel points to hear it over and over again? I could! Don't tempt me. This could be on the list. I could memorize Petoskey. It helps that it does repeat. So it's no Jabberwocky, but man, it is endearing. And apparently Petoskey itself is named after an Ottawa Indian chief named Petoskey, or the Rising Sun. So that's cool. All right, so I hope everybody feels encultured. Now we are steeped in the lore of Michigan and Petoskey, and I just find like the whole setup is so great. Like, obviously, if you're running tourist things, you want people to be able to go home and have fond memories of this place and maybe want to come back. Can I read the phone book next? Aw, thank you. But things like this, like, it's great. This is something that would have been, thank you, Jennifer Shorter. Good job. Like, this is just a bunch of nice with pretty solid science in it. It gives you good context while still lauding nice things about the state. And, like, it's just a nice setup. So, go team. This is, I just love it. So, alright. So, now back onto fossils. The kit, this was started, so some of these things are a little bit used, but it never got finished, so we've got kind of a mix here. Okay, so, how to take your find and make it shine. It's easy to take Petoskey stones that you find on the beach and hand polish them until they have a bright gleam. Polishing Petoskey stones is a great rainy day project. Well, I'll tell you, it is sunny right here in Chicago right now, but I think we can still work on it. What you will need: container full of clean water. I have that off to the side here. 220 and 600 grit silicon carbide sandpaper. For anybody who was watching my stream when I was doing the foil ball, I actually got more of that stuff. So I'm ready with the good sandpapers. So I'm pretty excited about that. The white polishing compound. So there's that. And a piece of wool, velvet, or felt. So, pretty standard sanding project. So, start with a 220 grit sandpaper, wet both the sandpaper and the stone, sand your stone until the pattern shows clearly. During this process, be sure to clean the stone and paper frequently, so, you want to get it in your bucket. Repeat these steps using the 600 grit sandpaper and clean water. Replace your water, wash your hands and the stone. Okay, so get all the schmutz off. Place a cloth in your stone in water, wring out the cloth. Mix a small amount of water with the polish until it has the consistency of toothpaste. Dip the cloth in paste and rub on the stone. Add more polish and water as needed. And rub it until you have a high gloss. So, yeah, it's a polishing project. That part's pretty straightforward, so I feel pretty confident there. Are these labeled? Yeah, so 220, 220, and that's the 600. So, put that one to the side. So these are a little banged up. I might have to use one of my other ones. And this is for later. And yeah, so you can see this got started. So this side, you can see these pretty well. You know, there's definitely fossil stuff going on there. This side, not so much. That just looks like a beach rock. And I don't know if there will be anything on that side. I think so. So I'll try polishing kind of all of it. I can see, oh, there is some. Okay, so this is a cool thing. My lab manager, Constance Van Beek, explained this way better than me, but finding fossils can be facilitated by using raking light. So light that's coming across a surface at a really extreme angle, so not straight down, but, you know, kind of glancing across it. And so fossil hunters that are out in, like, arid areas where you have the big quarry kind of bone beds will often go out early in the morning or right at sunset, because that's when the sun is coming in at that really extreme angle, and you can see things stand up in relief. The littlest shadows are cast by the tiniest little protrusions, and you can really see what's going on in there a lot better. And so, like, with Fossil Creek is primarily what she was talking about, everything is white. And so if you're out there in the baking sun, everything's just white. It doesn't look like anything. But if you have that raking light, suddenly you're like, oh, that's something's vertebrae or whatever. And so with this guy, I'm able, from this angle, I can see that there are the fossil patterning on this side, where if I look directly on it, I can't see it. I don't know if I can mimic that for the camera. Yeah, I think the detail is a little too fine to be able to do that. But yeah, there's definitely, I can see the fossil in relief on this side, so I can tell that it's going to be there. I just have to kind of pull it out with sanding. And then this little guy is kind of interesting. This one, you can see it's very nicely sanded on this side. And then this side, the centers, the mouths of the coral have been kind of scooped out. So they just fossilize differently. So I won't be able to do a lot with that, because any sanding I would do inside of that would actually be just like scooping out the fossil worse. So not a ton to be gained trying to mess with that, which is too bad. But this side is, heck, practically done. This looks great. So this might just need a polish. I'll still hit it with the two sandpapers, but it should be pretty straightforward. But yeah, this one is going to be the showpiece, obviously. So that's fun. Okay. So I'll move these guys to the side and get my handy dandy bin of water. And yeah, you can see that. It's a little misty, but they're in there. Lap. Oh yeah, and as soon as they're wet. Oh yeah, wow, gracious. As soon as they're wet, the patterning shows up so much clearer. Like, this is the bad side that I wasn't sure if I could see the fossil stuff, but you can definitely see it a little clearer. So, yeah. You know what? I didn't grab paper towels. I'll be right back. Let me grab, I'm not going to stop the stream or anything. I'm just going to grab quick paper towels. I just want to have these ready, because, you know, water. Okay, so flap. Yeah, so like already these look pretty good. And it's funny because I don't know exactly how it went the first time people were working on this, so I gotta move this up. There we go. I can't really say if I'm undoing some good work by using the rough grit first, but it'll work out. So, when doing specimen prep at the field, I never sanded a fossil. This is a new experience. I never worked with coral. I always worked with vertebrates. So, and the directions don't really give an idea as to like how long you have to do this process. So, I feel, you know, this might already be done, and then this guy, I'm going to try and hit all these other sides, but I should be able to see something a little bit more or have it be a little more even, so we'll go for visuals, I guess. All that information about the Devonian, and they didn't really tell me what my goals are here. Oh well. That is okay. Yeah. So, I just keep thinking about flowering plants. Like, that's one of the things that got me super interested in, like, paleoecology, is the idea that Stegosaurus never saw, like, a standard tree. Stegosaurus did not ever stand underneath a palm tree, for example. Stegosaurus did not see an oak tree. Stegosaurus did not walk through grass. There was no grass. Or sniff a flower. T-Rex did. Stegosaurus did not. That's weird. You know? By the way, Stegosaurus never saw T-Rex. So, yeah, it's just like things that are separated by millions of years, but really long ago, you kind of glump them into one thing. But no, man, they're really different eras. It is hard to tell if I'm having an effect, because everything it's so pretty. And you can definitely see the fossil in the part that was already done, but I'm trying to get this, like, horn here, and there's some definition there. I feel like I can get more. I'm basically trying to just lighten it up. We'll see if that actually had something to do with if it was sanded or not, or if it's just different colors of matrix. Because the rock would be different colors based on just what affected it. You know, was one part of it up against something that was, you know, a different chemical compound. Or if it was just exposed to sunlight. Things like that. Hey, Pseudonine. Good to see you. Alright. Pseudonine, did you miss my epic poetry reading? It was good. Maybe at the end of the stream, if people want, I can read that poem again, because it's just so, like, bright and sunny. So I think I don't have any more of the... Yeah, so my lowest grit sandpaper I got from my most recent project was 400. This is 220. So I'm definitely going to kill this sandpaper. I probably would have liked a little bit more, but so it goes. And it is having an effect. Like, I'm getting this white, you know, powderized material off, so I'm definitely getting something off the rock. So the sandpaper is doing a thing to the fossil. I always find commercial fossils to be kind of interesting, because part of me always wants to be like, that belongs in a museum! But not everything does. Not everything has scientific value just because it's so common or, you know, damaged or various things. So there's a lot of fossils, such as my ammonite, which don't belong in a museum. It's not like they don't have some value, but there's only so much you can put in a storage. So... Okay, so this is kind of cool. I'm getting in far enough now that there's an area... Let me move this. You guys can kind of see it. There's this like area right here that's just a solid brown. You know, so you have all the patterning up here, but then there's the solid area. That's just matrix. That's just mud. That's fossilized mudstone. But yeah, the sanding is a nicer sound than the hammering for sure. So I can really pretty clearly see the... okay, so on the top side, I can really very clearly see the hexagonia shining through. The bottom, I've got some dark parts, I've got some weird bits, And then that's just like pure mudstone. So that's kind of cool. So I'm not going to try and get all the way through that. I got other things to do in my life than try to sand away, 2 or 3 millimeters depth of rock. But I am just overall trying to get the whole thing to be definitely sanded, not just one facet, one plane. Oh, so, there's this movie out now about Mary Anning. And so for anybody who's familiar with the tongue twister, She Sells Seashells by the Seashore, the good money is that that's based on Mary Anning, because she was at the White Cliffs of Dover in England in, 18-something, I don't remember the year, so don't quote me on that. My hands are wet, so I'm not going to look it up. But she literally was this avid fossil hunter who identified ichthyosaur but she just found all these like great marine fossils in the White Cliffs of Dover in England. And so among them are fossilized shells and things like that. So she literally sold seashells by the seashore, but they were fossils. So the people still made fun of her, and people were actually real jerks to her for like her whole life. Sadly, but she sold seashells by the seashore. And the movie is, talking about how the world done her wrong, because the world frickin' done her wrong. She was not recognized by any of the prevalent science community because she was a woman, blah, blah, blah. It's the same disgusting story from that era. And they look into her love life, and it's an interesting twist on the whole existence of this particularly, scientifically minded adventurer who spent a lot of time fighting with the ocean for fossils and really added to the fossil collections of England and got crapped on her whole life. So I don't know if it's a fun movie, but probably a really interesting one. And she's one of those heroes that you just kind of the more you read about her, the more endearing she is. And I own a board game. Where is it? There it is. Called The Great Dinosaur Rush. I recommend it to anybody. It's really fun. It's about the Dino Wars. By the way, there were Dino Wars. There were Bone Wars. And all of the paleontologists that are represented, and these are historical figures. They're actual historical figures from this game. They're all represented as being giant dirtbags because they were giant dirtbags. People from this era were horrible. They sabotaged each other's stuff, and they did slander. Oh, hey, not here. And, paleontologists from the Bone Wars were jerks. And Mary Anning is in that game, and she's the only person who's not a bad person. She's the only one that has no negative characteristics. Paleontologists from the Great Bone Wars of the 1870s. God. Okay, I'll get that out when my hands are dry. All of them are dirtbags. Every one of them. And, most of the Field Museum's original collection are from these guys. And even the Field Museum's they're all dirtbags. But we love this fossil. And, they're just the worst. So the game is, you actually are collecting up fossils, which are just little sticks and things like that. But then you can assemble them any way you want, because that's kind of what those guys did to make a buck. They were big jerks. Bone Wars, that was a weird time. Alright. So, let's get an update. Looking good. So you can really see the coral on most of this. And I'm starting to get the back to really show through. You can start to see some of those eyes. I'm pretty happy about that. This area is still dark, but I'll see. Library Rat said, Crichton has a book on the subject that was published posthumously. It's fiction and not your favorite, but still interesting. It's called Dragon Teeth. Ooh. Yeah, no, the Bone Wars are weird and fighty. And so I can see Michael Crichton being interested in that, given his other successes. But, yeah, those guys were jerks. But they described a lot of dinosaurs and they got people interested. Like, they did kickstart a lot of paleontology. They got a lot of money for paleontology, so they did kind of start the movement. But in a lot of the grossest ways one could possibly have done it. I don't believe anybody was actually murdered. Not that I recall, but there's some seriously sketchy stuff. Alright, so I think I've played out the 220 sandpaper. I think this is dead. So I'm going to take those out. Blah. 600 actually seems to be pretty intact, so I'm going to use the stuff that came from the kit. And if I need more, I have more of the 600. So let's start with our little guy. So our little monoplane. We've got this beautiful side and this less beautiful side. Oh, and thinking about, like, old-timey paleontology and how people reacted to finding, you know, huge skeletons of things that clearly didn't currently exist. I will have to look this up. I have to find it. But apparently there's, like, Greek amphora and pottery that actually depicts monsters that just have, like, a freaking T-Rex head. Because people had found the bones of some sort of large theropod or, like, a triceratops, and they're like, well, that's a monster, so we're just going to assume it had a body. Maybe it's just going to be this black blob, and it's chasing some dudes. And you know, you got to feel for those artists who are like, okay, well, I want to incorporate this really cool thing, because it's clearly a real monster, and I've gotten to see it. And so the details are pretty good on some of these pottery fragments, where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a triceratops. Good job, man. It must have just been really, really confusing. Oh, this is a pretty piece. This little one's going to be satisfying. It's, you know, the pits in the back are a bummer, but it's going to be pretty. So this is not what happened to this rock as far as I'm aware, but having these pits picked out reminds me of when you find out that people have been over-prepping a specimen, where, like, technically the stuff in the middle of those eyes is garbage. It's not the actual fossil. It's kind of like the brochure was saying, it's the food or it's mud or things like that. So hypothetically, you don't want it, right? It's not the real fossil. But by leaving it there, you can see a lot more fine detail. By taking it out, you lose that detail. And so again, that's not what happened with this piece specifically, but that's something that would come up in the fossil lab, is people would actually start removing things which are technically something that could be removed, but you actually reduce the value of the whole fossil, whereas if you leave matrix in, if you leave some of the bone, or I'm sorry, some of the stone in place around the bone, it actually protects it and maybe protects fine detail. So there's a point when you stop working on a specimen. My worst ones, where I would always want to over-prep, is if I had some sort of, like, I usually worked on skulls. Fresh or old, I always work on skulls. And you can follow, like, the holes in the bone where major, like, blood vessels and things would go pretty far. And if you're trying to get a vibrating micro jackhammer into this tiny little tube, sure, you might be able to get the stuff at the end of that tube, but are you knocking around the edge? You know, so it's like playing Operation, where you don't want to touch the edges, because you'll potentially ding them, but you also kind of want to get farther in there, so that's one I have done. And you knock off a corner, and you're like, oh, okay, that was wrong. And luckily, the damage I caused was usually less than a millimeter, usually like half a millimeter kind of thing. I don't know what the metric sizes are for things under millimeters when you get to picometers, but so it was usually microscopic damage, but I still felt real dumb and tried not to do that too much. Yeah, over-prepping, man. It's an easy one to fall into. And you can do over-prepping even with fresh specimens, so if you're working on fresh bone, you might be trying so hard to dig every little tiny piece of tissue off of a piece of bone that you actually are damaging the bone. We had that happen big time with a juvenile great horned owl skull. Okay, so yeah, the details are coming out. you know, this side is looking real good. This is kind of the oblique, so that's not as good. And then, of course, the bottom, now I'm seeing a lot more detail. And then where's my mud section? There it is. The blob of mud is just going to remain a blob of mud, and that's okay. It'll be a nicely polished blob of mud. It's alright. Let's go for a few more minutes here. Here, what do you say? It's 1:46 my time. So let's go for another 15 minutes of sanding to make sure I really get it in there, and then we'll try polishing it. Let's see what it looks like. So I have to say, streaming projects like this is so relaxing because, you know, again, for anybody who doesn't mind the constant sanding noise, thank you, I appreciate you guys. But this is mindless. And so having people to talk to or stuff to talk about is so great, because otherwise this would be way boring. And I do want the polished specimen. I think it's going to be a really nice little fossil. But, whew. The act of getting it is pretty labor intensive. I mean, fossil prep is labor intensive. You get lucky sometimes, but it's a lot of picking at things and making really slow progress. So if anybody's interested in volunteering at the Field Museum, I don't know when they're going to allow volunteers back. I am not allowed back right now. I haven't been back there in months. But the way it used to work, if you will, is to get into the fossil lab, you had to schedule a time to take a dexterity test. So they're not just going to hand you some precious fossil to clean. You gotta prove yourself. And so the dexterity test is a Fossil Creek fish. It's generally going to be a Priscacara, which are like a little perch. So it's a fish-shaped fish. It's, you know, it's a little oval body, you know, little fin on the end. It looks like a fish. Priscacara are one of the most common fossil lake fish. The other one being Nidia, I think, are the two, like, most prevalent. Nidia are more like a herring shape. They're a little long and thin. But Priscacara, again, if you've ever seen a fossil for sale at, like, a museum shop or a lot of rock shops, and it's just a fish on a rectangle of rock, like a light-colored rectangle of rock with a dark-colored fish in it, it's a Priscacara from Fossil Lake. Or at least from the Green River Formation. They're real common. They're pretty easy to prep. They're a nice size, and so they're a pretty common thing to sell. And so the Field Museum has a number of those, obviously, and some of them are just designated as prep fish, which means they're not as scientifically important. They still have value, but again, they're lower on the list. And your entire job, I spent, I think it was 6 hours working on my prep fish my first day. They show you how to use the equipment. You know, your manager walks you through all that stuff, which is very nice. You're given a pin vise, so it's literally just a pin in a holder and a microscope. And your job is to only clean the fin rays of the tail. So you're not cleaning the skull. You're not cleaning, like, big, obvious bones. You're cleaning that gossamer nothing of the fin that trails off into, like, on a living fish would be the see-through-y fins. That's what you have to clean up. And you have to find the last bones. And so if you're pushing too hard, they'll just disappear and fly off into nowhere, and you'll never see those bones again. It's not like you can put them back. They're like flakes of dust at that point. And so the test is, can you identify the fin rays and follow them to their actual terminus and not break them off too soon? And so I spent 6 hours, and I cleaned a section about, I don't know how well you guys can see that, maybe that big? The aperture between my fingers here? It, like, what? Let me call it 2 centimeters long by, like, 2 by 5. Let's say 2 centimeters by 5 centimeters rectangle-ish of these fin rays in 6 hours. And they let me stay. And it's crazy because you can see, they'll just use a pencil line to denote what area you're allowed to clean, and you can see what your predecessors had done. And so you can see other people's attempts, and it's crazy to look at some of these fish and be like, oh, yeah, that one didn't go well at all. which also means you can kind of peek at the ones that worked really nicely and have an idea of how long your fin rays are supposed to be. Which is super helpful. But yeah, that's a frickin' test, and it's interesting because you can see what the failure condition is. It's very straightforward. And so I managed to get in, and then I have never worked on another Fossil Lake fish, and I'm so glad. That is not my jam. Whereas I know other people, like my friend Bill, oh my god, Bill Z, wherever you are, you're a great guy. He was always doing Fossil Lake fish. He was just beloved by Lance Grandy. So Dr. Lance Grandy is kind of one of the preeminent Green River Formation Fossil Lake specialists in the world. He's written a couple books about it, whatever. Lance Grandy, nice guy. And he basically adopted this particular volunteer as his personal, you get to do the cool, showy fish. Bill did a good job. But I got pulled into larger critters, and I was very happy because I was willing to work on Dicynodonts. A lot of people wouldn't work on Dicynodonts. Because, like, again, if you think about the Fossil Lake fossils, they're beautifully different colors. There's the white background and there's the black bones of the animal, right? And that's how they fossilize. They happen to absorb different minerals which cause the color change, so they're different than the matrix around them. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. You can look at it and you know what you're looking at. Whoo! Zambian, or Tanzanian, I should say just broadly, Rift Valley Dicynodonts, they're rainbow colored. Everything. The fossil itself is a whole rainbow. Different sections are all different colors. The matrix that's on top of it is all different colors. It's studded with crystal. It's just monstrously a pain in the butt. And a lot of people wouldn't work on it. It's a lot of hematite. Like a lot of hematite. And I always thought of hematite as being this like really shiny metal looking rock that you could buy pre-polished at like museum stores. You know, there's usually like bins of it, or you can get hematite rings that you would wear for 2 days and then they'd break. I love hematite. It's great stuff. And hematite, crystallized hematite, or hematite in its unpolished form, when you powderize it, turns bright red because it's a iron-bearing, what do you call it? Oh, there's a chemical term for this. It's a material that is a variation of iron. This is where my lack of chemistry fails me. Anyway, hematite, great stuff. And so you powderize it with a tiny jackhammer, and that means there's bright red dust everywhere. And so, like, all of my field museum stuff, my apron, my lanyard, my actual ID, things like that, are all stained orange red, or rusty red, by this hematite. And yeah, I managed to ingratiate myself with my favorite paleontologist at the field museum, Dr. Ken Angelovic, who discovered that I liked working on his somewhat troublesome Dicynodonts. And I miss my Dicynodont. It waits for me. I'll get back to you, Big Red. You're a cool specimen. Ken was so nice, too, because, like, his office is up on the 3rd floor, you know, out of the public eye, whereas I'm working on things in the main lab. But I could call that dude if it was a weekday and he was in, and he'd come running down, or he'd take me up to his office, and he had, you know, other finished specimens. So he's like, okay, this part you're working on that you're stuck, here's what it looks like if you're done. I'm like, oh, that's so helpful. It's like looking at the box that the puzzle came in. It's wonderful. It made such a difference. So, yeah. Because sometimes, man, you just get lost. You're like, it all looks like rock, I give up. And having something else that somebody else beat their head against and did a beautiful job is immensely helpful. Okay. Well, we're coming up 5 minutes. My goal of how much longer I was going to do this. I have to tell you, this rock feels great. Like, it feels much shinier and smoother than when I started. So I'm definitely having an effect. You know, and it looks beautiful and shiny because it's all wet. So that kind of doesn't count. But I can really see the patterning now on all the sides. So this is obviously the show side. But all of it... Oh, and it feels nice. Ah, sanding is so absolutely... satisfying. And there's a couple of dents in here and stuff I'm not going to be able to get into. That's fine. It's a rock. I'm not making fine jewelry here. I really like just touching polished stones. I don't know about you guys, but like if you're ever in a store that sells like those bins of pre-polished stones, isn't it kind of fun to just pick up a handful of them? I mean, you should be polite and buy something, but like, yeah, just interacting with highly polished stones is very satisfying. My water is dirty. I don't, yeah, you guys can't really see the color change as much because it's white and the bin is white, but it is having a really distinctive, I'm getting a lot off these rocks is what I'm saying. It's doing the thing, so pretty happy with that. I don't think there's any other area I really need to focus on. So satisfying. You know, funny thing with thinking about my years and years and years of working with fossils, I've been a volunteer at the field for 7 years this December, if you count this year as being an active volunteer, which I kind of do. But so I've been a volunteer over there for a long, long time. And numerically, I have not worked on that many fossils. If you don't count my prep fish, I've worked on like 12? Something like that? 12, 13? What is the finest sandpaper I have? 3,000. 3,000? I think it's 3,000. $2,000. The finest sandpaper I have is 2,000. I'm not going to use that on here simply because the instructions don't tell me to do so, and I don't think I would need it. But yeah, fine sandpaper, man, what a difference. Because I mean, you got me thinking about it. I could go one more level up, but the kit doesn't say that you need to. So I'm tempted to just carry on with what the kit says. Oh, and for my regular viewers, since you guys are on here, I love your feedback. For anybody who was on the Tuesday chat, I did add a channel points workout thing. So we will have that, which I think will be especially good for the Tuesday Just Chatting Tea Time stuff. And then, if anybody hasn't looked at my About section on my homepage recently, I've added some new stuff. My artist was able to give me some really great, like, header images and stuff. Oh, okay, thank you, Shard Mom. Yeah, and so if anybody's interested, if you like that style, I did have a link to her Etsy page. She does sell, like, greeting cards and stickers and little things, but she also does pet portraits. So please support my friend Erin. She's really rad, and I love the stuff that she gave me. There's at least 2 typos, I believe, still in my about information. So if you see any typos, don't put them in the chat here because it's harder for me to respond. If you know me personally, email me or text me, or you can put it on the Discord, and I can respond to that. So, yeah, I'm trying to have more stuff on there, and she gave me such just solid art, and I really appreciate it. So, but yeah, support small artists, people. Thank you, Nahir. Yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. Yeah, but this artist and I used to walk dogs together back in the day. Dog walking in Chicago is a big deal. A lot of people do it, and you run into everybody. You know, anybody who's trying to get a great, like, tweener job just to have to fill time is dog walking. And you meet a lot of artists, but everybody. I don't know. I feels like a lot of people in Chicago at some point when they're getting their start was a dog walker. And Aaron is one of those. Alright, my friends. I think I'm going to call it. Let me give this guy one more. Okay. So let's move this big thing out of the way. Ah. I'm getting a lot of gritty water on my laptop, which is maybe not ideal, but there you go. Alright. So, those look good to me. These are, I mean, stuff that's going to be in a kit like that's not going to be the most flawless, like, jewelry quality, but that's fine. Right now I can see the coral patterning for the hexagonia on every surface other than where this big matrix chunk is. So I'm pretty happy about that. This one already looked pretty good. Okay. So let me check the directions. Ahem. So... Okay, replace the water, wash your hands, and the stone. And then I have to make a little bit of polish and polish it. Okay, so I'm going to need a container for polish. Okay. So, my little vessel, I'll put some fresh water in this. And I have to wash the stones and my container. So I'm actually going to put up the AFK message for a second because this will take me a minute to do the water change. So I will be back in a moment to do the final step of this. Alright, I am back. I have various vessels of water. And this is, even as it dries off, I feel like I am seeing more patterning. This is too bad. This is starting to fog back up, so these little, like, white divots are still pretty evident. So I could go and sand more. Actually, yeah, as it's drying, it's really fogging up. So you can see all these, like, white sparkles. But there's no guarantee that if I kept sanding, those would go away. Those are basically just like, kind of look like quartz flaws. Because I definitely got the smooth texture I was going for, so I don't think those are going to go away. So the white, you know, especially like here, you can see this really, really speckly foggy. But I wonder if the polishing will take care of that. So, despair not. All right, so going back to our adorable instruction guide. Place a cloth and your stone in water. Wring out the cloth. Mix a small amount of water with the polish until it's the consistency of toothpaste. So I have my little packet of polish here. Okay, so I'm just going to use the whole thing of polish. It doesn't say anything about using gloves, so I'm not going to worry about it. Don't eat it. It's probably, you know, sure I could be more cautious, but whatever. Alright, so consistency of toothpaste. So I have a ton of water here, but I'll just like... boop. Like... it feels like oobleck. Okay, so I have the consistency of oobleck and not exactly the consistency of toothpaste, but I think it'll work. Ooh, and actually, speaking of oobleck, it's doing the non-Newtonian thing. So, like, I can... if I push on it, it starts to react like it's a firm, much more solid structure, that I can see wrinkles in it and cracks. So, yeah, okay, so whatever this polish is, it's based on it's a non-Newtonian fluid. That's fun. Okay. And so they provided, it says a piece of wool, velvet, or felt. The kit came with a little piece of felt, so I'm going to put that in my water, as per the instrucciones. And then I'm supposed to re-wet these, so we'll start with our little friend. So, wring out the cloth. Consistency of toothpaste. Dip the cloth in the paste and rub on the stone. Alright. Boop. So, get that on there. Add more polish or water as needed. Rub compound on stone until you obtain a gloss. Okay, so at least this one has a stated end condition to it, so... And again, even though the back of this isn't as pretty, I'm still polishing it. It's still pretty. It's still worthy. Yeah, so it's definitely gritty. You know, I can tell that it is scouring the surface to some extent. Dip cloth and paste, rub on stone, add more polish as necessary. So they give you tips I forgot to read on here. So one of them, it says, an ordinary sand bucket, like this one shown, works great when polishing Petoskey stones. You should also cover your work area with newspapers for fast cleanup. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. And then for the final picture shows a very glossy, shiny stone, and it says, put your newly polished Petoskey stone on your desk as a paperweight. Or on a table as a conversation piece. So they're fully acknowledging it's just a dang rock and it has no actual purpose. And I'm 100% with that. I'm looking forward to having a slightly different looking rock than when I started. I like rocks. I pick up rocks anyway, so it sounds good to me. All right. It looks glossy, but it's also wet. So let's let that one dry. And I'll start polishing the big guy and we'll see where we get. So, re-wet that. And let's get a good amount of our our hilariously non-Newtonian polish. Alright. So yeah, ton of polish on this guy. But he's real big. So that's okay. So when I was doing the foil ball and polishing that, this part actually came together a lot faster than I was anticipating, so we'll see how that works with a solid piece of fossilized coral as opposed to a weird ball of foil. Because part of me always wants to just go a little longer, like, how can you really tell, but... It smells like plaster. Let's put some more polish on there. Yeah. I guess that's more toothpaste-ish now. Yeah, how do you know? Well, we'll just go. So let's see, it's 2:13. I will go at most to 2:30 with this step, let's say. Give it another 17 minutes. Because I really want this to be highly glossy. I want to do the thing, and, you know, I'll take the time. Make it cool. Oh, for anybody who follows my taxidermy stream, I have a funny update. I mentioned this a little bit on Tuesday, but my landlord is back home. My landlord's been gone for a couple months because coronavirus has upended everybody's lives. And I just went and put a stinky dead animal skull soaking in fluid out on my landing, hoping that the smell wouldn't travel all the way down to the first floor. And it certainly wouldn't go down one floor to my landlord's flat. Then he came home after the first time in a long time. And, at peak stinky. Pretty much peak stinky is when I realized. And so I'm like, oh, nuggets. And so I did a fluid change. I put completely fresh, hydrogen peroxide in with a skull, and I dumped out all the old fluid, which contained lots of, like, floating brain bits and, you know, really good stuff. And luckily, Chicago just had record-setting warm weather, so I was able to open the window on my landing for like a whole day, and that got rid of the miasma that had kind of grown. And then the next day, before we got up in the morning, my landlord apparently stopped by and tucked $20 on our doorknob because we had to buy something that he normally would have taken care of when he was in town, but we went and did it, so he was reimbursing. I have a great landlord. He's a classy guy. Which means so he was up on my landing. If he had known to look, he could have seen the sheep skull floating in its little bucket not that far away. And I'm like, so I think it's okay. I don't think he noticed. I think I got rid of all the funky smell. But of all the timing, I had all these months where the dude's gone, and he and his wife are only here for 10 days. And then they're off again. So I found the one window when it would have potentially mattered that I have a stinky, stinky skull on my landing. But I think even if he had noticed, he'd be cool about it. He's a nice guy, but it's pretty funny. Oh yeah, I keep meaning to say building owner, not landlord. I don't like the term landlord. It's kind of pointlessly grandiose. But he's a nice dude. Overall, though, that hydrogen peroxide method seems to be going really well, so... Oh yeah, it's hilarious. I couldn't believe it. Timing. This looks really good. It's starting to feel like I'm actually having an effect. I think I think the thing is happening. The thing that you want to happen, I believe, is actually a thing. So, you know how back in the world that was, there were, like, paint and sips that people could sign up for where you would, it's wine all night, and you get led through an art class where you're all painting a still life of flowers or doing a imitation Van Gogh or something like that. And paint and sips are like something you could do with a bunch of friends, and you're all giggling, and you all get to go home with a painting, and you're drinking wine the whole time, and it's a whole thing. Like, maybe in the Earth that will be, back when we can do group classes and things like that, maybe we can just have, like, Petoskey stone polishing classes where people sit around drinking whatever adult beverage is Michigan appropriate, whatever's pure Michigan, guys, polishing Petoskey stones, because this is way more fun if you're talking to people, so everybody, and it's not so toxic that you couldn't, use your wet hands to pick up a glass of beverage or something. I think that I would sign up for that. I don't really want the painting, but I could see polishing rocks together. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. But what do you guys think? Do you think I could be the next big thing? Is I could have, on top of my taxidermy classes I'm planning on holding in, like, park districts and museums, I could also do, what would it be? Sip and sand? What's the $1 million idea here? Library rat, you're on board with this? Yeah, because, like, the whole point of a paint and sip is it lowers inhibitions, and so you're probably less judgy of your artwork, which I have to mean. Yeah, if there's alcohol, people will go, so you're fine there. And you could have some sort of really regional specific things, like, oh, let's read the poem of the Petoskey stone, and then everybody gets to go home with a very shiny piece that they did while chatting and taking breaks for little nibbles. I did a fantastic class once with a friend of mine from the Ride for AIDS that was just like a flower arranging class. And it was so much fun because it was the same idea of the paint and sips where there was lots of wine available and cheese trays. I don't actually even like wine, but I was there because my friends were there and it was a lot of fun. And I like cheese, so that worked out. And she just had tables and tables of fresh cut flowers and explained the kind of the methodology of, how you arrange it, putting these ones in first and these go in last and these are going to last longer than these other ones. So as you edit your arrangement, you have to take these out sooner, blah, blah, blah. Like, it was really, really lovely. I think I might even still have one of those flowers. I managed to dry it. And yeah, so there's a lot of classes that are based around the, adults will sit still long enough if you give them some sort of alcohol and munchies. And then you get something you take home at the end. So it's just the same as any other art class, except it's explicitly got chow, which wine and cheese is, like, will keep people's attention. Okay. Hypothetically, I'm going for another 10 minutes. I don't know. I think this might actually be the stuff. How's this guy looking? So my little tester is not amazingly shiny, but you can see there's a shine there. So let me polish this guy a little bit more. Let's give you a rinse. Alright, so we'll let that one kind of dry out a little bit. See what I got. It's too bad I can't do alcohol and taxidermy. Nope. Does not go together. Like, no, there's nothing about that would work. I've only ever had one person get injured in one of my classes, but that's enough. I don't really need more than that. She was okay. She got a Band-Aid and took a walk through a butterfly haven and then felt a lot better. Yeah, I'm seriously thinking about what about like a hand polishing class format? You know, because the Earth that will be, we don't know when that's going to happen. You know, when will people start to be having regular in-person classes? Where that would be like 3 or 4 hours, let's say 2 to 4 hours together in a single space with communal food. You know, like, are we going to go back to that model? I don't know. When, or, you know, probably yes, but when? So, you know, I probably shouldn't be buying materials to host such a thing quite yet. But I do like the idea of it. It kind of cracks me up. And classes I teach always have a some sort of PowerPoint or information where you're gonna go home edumacated and there's nothing you can do about it. Ha ha ha. So like, you know, polishing fossils or semi-precious stones or something like that. You can get into some kind of cool stuff. You probably couldn't do jewelry making with alcohol. I think the stuff would be too fine. It'd be really aggravating to like have people be mildly tipsy trying to work with little tiny rings. So you probably couldn't do something like that. I really want this one to be like a mirror because it's so flat. And if I'm running it, I mean, you have to have wine because people expect it, but I don't like wine. So, something I would want. But again, if it's like, if let's say it's Petoskey stones, it would, I wonder what kind of alcohol creating businesses there are in the town or region of Petoskey or Little Traverse City. Or Little Traverse Bay, I should say, not Traverse City. Traverse City is by there, but it's kind of fun to think about. Hot chocolate. Oh man, I've actually overdone it with hot chocolate. I did, for things I've learned, if you have a cookie bake-off, a hot chocolate, assembly on a hot chocolate bar is the wrong thing because then everybody is sweeted out. If you have a cookie bake-off, make sure you have like crudité. have chopped up veggies. But oh, it was such a good bar. We had this whole hot chocolate spread where it was 2 or 3 different types of hot chocolate, including vegan hot chocolate, so people who had dairy allergies or were vegan could have it, and some that were flavored, and then we had crushed up, we had whole and crushed up candy canes and sprinkles and like I think just shaved chocolate, like, oh my god, 2 different types of whipped cream, and then everybody was eating cookies for this cookie bake-off and just felt ill. So yeah, I could probably go for a and hot cocoa and hot chocolate are different. Let's be clear. I like them both. They are different. Hot cocoa is made from cocoa powder, and hot chocolate is made from melted chocolate. I do like both. But different. Like, hot cocoa, I want to have a candy cane in it. You know, I'd possibly marshmallows. Hot chocolates, I would either have plain or maybe with a marshmallow or 2, you know. And hot chocolate I often have flavored. Hot chocolates where I'll have like cayenne pepper or cinnamon or peanut butter. I've had peanut butter hot chocolate, which you don't have to eat for the whole rest of the day, but it's real good. Whereas like cocoa, I really want my cocoa to have toppings, but the cocoa to be kind of straightforward. All right, 5 more minutes. I'm just gonna push through. Let's just do it. Let's continue to just keep buffing this little guy. The big one's looking good. It's starting to really dry out, and it's not a high gloss, but it's not bad. Yeah, Mexican hot chocolate. Man, ordering hot chocolate in Mexico is so interesting because there's so many variations where they're like, do you want it with milk? Do you want it with water? Are you going to get the chocolate beans were ground up with nuts and with spices? Is it just the cocoa beans? Like, that's some good stuff. Yeah, and like Mexican hot chocolate is different from like French hot chocolate or German, where if you're using like a milk chocolate base for your hot chocolate, that's completely different than Mexican hot chocolate because that's made of Mexican, like hot chocolate for Mexican chocolate is basically just ground up cocoa beans as opposed to like a refined, smooth chocolate that we would eat in a chocolate bar. So yeah, there's the world of chocolate. It's vast and beautiful. So earlier there was a joke about me reading the phone book, which again very kind. A dear friend of mine from the Nature Museum named Yvonne has the world's most melodious voice. You really could listen to her read the phone book. It's just this gorgeous voice. And she did this special project at the Nature Museum when there was a chocolate exhibit up, where she actually got cocoa pods from one of the local botanic gardens, and had them in a little basket next to her wheelchair, and would just sit there comfortably in her wheelchair waiting for people to come by, and then be like, "Do you want to know more about chocolate?" And this melodious, beautiful voice of some sort of like fairy creature is like, "Hello, I'd like to educate you about plants." And you're like, "I yes, yes, beautiful, melodious creature. Tell me more." And she had a whole like, because it was a photography project about how chocolate is produced globally. It's very different with the like where they produce it in Africa versus like Central America, things like that. It was a really good project, and she had like all the facts. I learned so much stuff from her, and I learned actually it was just a good exhibit. Um, but chocolate, man, it's complicated. Hershey's is but one facet of a much chocolatier tableau. All right, 2 minutes. Don't want to go back to the big guy. Yeah, let's give 2 more minutes. I'm feeling that though. That's looking real good. So let's do just straight up 2 minutes on the show face, on the most beautiful side. Man. And then I'm thinking once I'll probably have to AFK real quick to go and like clean all this stuff up, but I'll come back and show off the stones. And then I'm feeling that poem. I'm reading that poem again. Like, I think that's a beautiful send off for the end of this project because these are so cool. Um, Unless anybody would actually vomit if I do, but you guys, it's a great poem. For anybody who hasn't heard it yet, it's a great poem. Uh, and then I can show off the ammonite again for anybody who didn't get to see my other fossil. But Petoskey stones, beautiful. Hexagonia. So this is the fossilized coral hexagonia from the Devonian period, found next to Lake Michigan in Michigan, in Little Traverse Bay, next to the town of Petoskey. So today's craft brought to you by Pure Michigan. Not here. Okay, I will do the desk workout once I finish this. Well, actually no, it's 2:30. All right, fine. Let me wash my hands. Is that cool? Okay, cuz like I'm a bit grode right now. Oh, I can't put up my AFK. My hands are too dirty. Do I have any other paper towels? There we go. I think I can touch. Okay, you guess. Yeah, no, give me just a second. I'm going to AFK and clean up my space, and I'll be back in a minute. Alright, I'm back. And I have a cloth to be able to finish drying and polishing these guys up. Alright, so the little one, that's actually pretty shiny. That got, you can catch the gloss, you can see that. Not too bad. And I did shine the back too, so even where you have these big pits, it's still got the nice gloss to it, so I'm pretty happy with that guy. Let's see our big one. Yeah. Definitely, you can see the glinting, you can see the shining. I would say that it reduced some of the speckling, but you can still see a lot of that. And I don't think... I don't think I could have taken off enough to really address those. But I can see a lot more detail, like in this end. You know, so you can see the little hexagonia. They look like cute little hexagons. So yeah. I think as a adorable little tourist memento, this is really nice. You know, polish your own Petoskey stone. And it's satisfying to hold. It does have the nice polished feel. So those are real nice. Alright. And so not here, wanted to use one desk workout. Okay. So well, okay, where's my list? So this is new. I have to figure these out. So on my list of desk workouts, arm pulses, desk push-ups, I don't even know how to say that, but hey PT. Let's see, standing rear pulses, calf raises, and oblique twist. Ooh, oblique twist, let's do that. Okay, so not here. To answer for your channel points, let me lower this a little bit more. Here, I'll put it on just me so you can really appreciate how silly this is. There, just me. So for anybody who is looking to do more exercises because we're all stuck indoors more often, and you can reduce anxiety by working out, I encourage you to join me. So all you have to do for this is just like hold onto your desk and twist your torso back and forth, kind of like a little kid would do on any desk chair ever. And yeah, everybody should do this. This is good for you if you are in this type of chair. So obviously if you're not sitting in this type of chair, this won't work. In that case, you can just, you know, twist yourself. But I forget, I didn't write down the number of reps, but let's say 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm actually doing this so it stretches, so it feels like something. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Alright, whew. I think I just said 1 rep, but I say the poem while I'm working out. I don't have it memorized. I can wiggle a little bit while I'm doing the poem. Alright. If everybody is ready, so I'm going to put the camera back down. Boom. So we have our now polished Petoskey stones. So again, and I can mark this as done because I figured out how to do that. Yay. Alright, so anybody who was watching earlier who didn't get to see or didn't get the full explanation, these are Petoskey stones. This is fossilized coral from the Devonian period, which again, let me get those numbers completely correct. 395 million years ago. So again, T-Rex existed on the planet Earth 67 million years ago. This is 395 million years ago. So this is an old dead critter. Corals are communities of animals, so each one of these kind of circles is one critter, so there's dozens of them all smushed together in a colony. And this fossilized at the bottom of the sea that covered central United States 300 million, almost 400 million years ago. And I have now polished it so you can really see those, all those individual things. So this is called Petoskey stone, and the creatures are hexagonia. And Petoskey stones are found near the town of Petoskey in Michigan. And this brochure about how to do this came with a poem. So I'm going to read this poem again because it makes me so happy. So everybody get ready. The poem is called Petoskey. In that state shaped like a mitten, on the little finger side, nestled in a peaceful valley, facing on the bay so wide, is a shining little city, place of beauty, health, and fame. Ah, I see you're getting curious. Would you like to know its name? Land of $1,000,000 sunsets, sportsman's paradise and more, the hay fever patient's haven, place the weary are looking for. The water's pure and sparkling, the air's fresh, clear as a bell. Hillsides are thickly wooded, casting shadow in nook and dell. You may look the wide world over, not another city like this. It's a gem that can't be mined. In that state shaped like a mitten, on the little finger side, nestled in a peaceful valley, facing on the bay so wide, is a shining little city that is known from coast to coast. Our very own Petoskey is the place of which I boast. By Ethel Ayers, The Petoskey Evening News, 1921. So thank you, Ethel Ayers, for your heartfelt prose about the town of Petoskey and its amazing fossilized rock, which is the state rock of Michigan. Yeah. What is it with Great Lakes media or culture wanting to point out sportsmen? Like anybody who knows the lay of the Edmund Fitzgerald, they talk about that too. This poem makes you feel even more Midwestern. Heck yeah! Woo! Midwest United States! Recognize! So, this was really cute. It's a library rat. Thank you for sending me these. This is fun. And they're satisfying to touch. Like, even if the visuals aren't flawless, there are all these little nicks and sparkles and, inclusions basically in this rock. It's definitely polished. It definitely feels nice at this point. So it'd be a good desk rock. Not that I use a lot of paperweights, but I have cool rocks. It's just going to join all my other cool rocks. Yeah. This one's nice. This one's like a worry stone. You just kind of want to hold it and rub it. Yeah, these are great. So, that was fun. Oh my goodness. I feel like there was something else I was wondering about when I was doing this project, but now I don't remember what that was. Football is played in the Midwest. Fun facts. Yes? Apropos of what? Football is played elsewhere, too. But Midwesterners do have feels about it. Man, I like all the patterns on here. These are satisfying little dudes. But, oof. Sanding projects. Who knew that could be this much fun? Although that's my last dedicated sanding project. If I'm going to be sanding anything else, which it comes up, I have a bunch of rusty tools I've been meaning to sand. I'm not kidding. I really like keeping my stuff nice, and if I can sand and polish my tools, they're better. Oh, why sports are mentioned. No, I think sportsmen in these contexts are fishing and hunting. That's my feeling on that one. Especially if you're talking about like those bay areas. That's my feeling. Now I can't ask the nice person from 1921, but I think in the lay of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Ooh, Shard Mom, thank you for the cheers. Those are really cute. Okay, I'm gonna look up the lyrics for the lay of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Because I think it's that one. I think it's more obvious. Browser view. Let's get over here and find my browser. Whoops, spelled that wrong, but... called Lay of the Anne Fitzgerald? Edmund Fitzgerald. Oh, the Wreck. Okay. The Gordon Lightfoot song is just the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. I'm not doing the entire song because I'm not, but I do like the intro outro is the legend lives on from the Chippewa down of the big lake they call Gitchmagoonie. The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead when the skies of November turn gloomy. With a load of iron ore, 26,000 tons more, when the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty. That good ship and true had a bone to be chewed when the gales of November came early. So for anybody who doesn't know this, oh no, bye, not here. But let's see, at the very end. So obviously the song is about a shipwreck, so it's very sad, but my favorite lyric in this song is the second one from the end. That's about the entirety of the Great Lakes, and so it says, Lake Huron rolls, Superior sings, in the rooms of her ice-water mansion. Old Michigan steams like a young man's dreams. The isles and bays are for sportsmen. And further below, Lake Ontario takes in what Lake Erie can send her, and the iron boats go, as the mariners all know, with a gale's November remembered. So, yeah, that one implies that the islands and bays are for sportsmen. That's the other reference I know from the Great Lakes that mentions sportsmen. I think it's specifically anglers, and potentially also hunters. Could be football. Okay, let me go to... back up here. Alright, beautiful people. Well, I finished my project that I had planned for today, and I'm very happy with it. I'm not really sure what to work on next. I have a bunch of good options. So we'll kind of see where the wind blows. I'm not too worried about that. I've got some really good ideas sent to me by a lot of good people. Oh, I was going to show you guys the ammonite. Anybody who wasn't on before... I missed Not here. I can show her later. So this is the other fossil that I have. This is an ammonite. So these were in the Devonian, but they made it all the way to the end of the Cretaceous, so they lasted longer than Hexaconia. And so these would have had little tentacly ends that kind of look like nautiluses, except they're not nautiluses. They're closer related to octopuses, actually. So this is in Cephalopodiae, for being like an octopus or a squid. And I love this little fossil, and I'm hoping to work on it once I get the right tool to do so. This dude, you don't sand. You'd lose all these like fantastic ridges and stuff. So that is a project for another day, but I'm very excited about it. So, ow, crunch. Yeah, I think other stuff I have to work on for next time. I do have my cute little smiling on. I have this adorable guy. So this guy could use a paint job. And I'd probably want to be fancy with this and try to make it brindle, so have like stripies on him. So, have to see about that. The other one, which I might do on my Thursdays, is I have a request to do a taxidermy-style mount for this adorable stuffed rat, which means that I would not actually cut open the adorable stuffed rat. So what's his name? Cheez-It? Cheezer. Cheezer is not going to meet any sort of particular fate, but I could make a body form like I would do for a taxidermy mount, so I might do that on a Thursday. So, I got a couple good ideas. But we can talk about that on Tuesday during my regular chatting time, because that's great. That's great conversation for hanging out and drinking tea and musing. So, yeah, no, I think I might wrap it up. I think I'm at a good stopping point. This is satisfying. I usually go on till 3, but unless anybody has any other thoughts or questions, I think I might call it for today. And then I will be on next on Saturday doing taxidermy. It looks like I actually am going to be working on that dang sheep stall again. I want to give it a big rinse and probably hit it with a toothbrush. So the big bin of water that I used today is probably going to come out again, except this time it's going to have a big dead thing in it. So I'm probably going to be working on that guy at least once more in a big way. But, oh, I love touching these. These are so nice. So, yeah, I'm going to wrap up. So, thank you everybody for hanging out with me. Again, thank you Library Rat for the great project. This was a fun one. And it's very satisfying now that it's all polished. If anybody else has any other ideas for my stream, I haven't gotten my Discord set up quite yet. I'm hoping to get that today or tomorrow. But I definitely want feedback. So write down your ideas and then tell me later. or whisper me, I guess. So everybody take care. Be nice to each other. Stay healthy. All that important stuff. And I'll see you guys on Saturday. Bye.